All right, this is very important. We've introduced ourselves this morning, and now it's your turn. It would be great if we knew who was in the house. So we want to, have you take a moment right now in your chat box and give us your name, if you would please, and if you feel comfortable sharing, what are your pronouns? And certainly feel free to add them to your Zoom name or your name tag there. See down there. So these are just some examples of different pronouns that people use. So please put that with your name if you feel comfortable, and where you grew up. That would be interesting. I grew up in Southwest Detroit myself, and then on the scale, this unusual looking scale here. I know there's some cat lovers in the house, and I'm one of them. But on a scale of cat, how are you feeling today? So, your name. I'm Kofi Doma. My pronouns, she, her, and hers. I grew up in Detroit. And today on a scale of cat, I think I'm feeling about maybe a 4 today. I'm a little on the sleepy side. So just take a moment to do that if you would, please. We would love it. Thanks.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Adam and Shane from Rescue Michigan with a special guest joining us tonight. Michigan Board of Education member Tom McMillan is here to talk about some of the things we're going to be going through tonight. If you haven't seen that before, that cold open bit that we're going to be getting into this, there is a whole series of videos from the Michigan Department of Education that have come online, really showcasing what the schools are trying to do as a policy to avoid exposing parents to finding out all the things that the schools are doing to promote transgenderism and so forth with children in all grades, I think. And we're going to be talking about that, how it ties into Proposal 3, how it ties into the campaigns, which are going to be going to the polls in a matter of days now for the absentee ballots. But we don't have Tom McMillan for a long time. He's on a trip, and he was gracious enough to stop by tonight. So welcome, Tom. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks, Adam and Shane. Good to be with you guys.
Now, I am holding up this phone to the microphone here, so I'm a little tied up right now, but because we've had some technical issues. But everyone in chat, feel free to say hi. We are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble, and we like to read chats off as we go. So, hey, Jeff, nice to see you again, and Vance and Ben and Barry and Cheryl. And folks on Rumble, feel free to tune in as well. I don't know where exactly I want to start tonight. We've got so many clips and things. I guess I'll bring this up on the screen first. The article that got my attention about this, which actually really got brought to my attention by none other than Tudor Dixon herself. This was, where is it here? This is a series of tweets that she posted on Facebook just the other day. She is taking the bull by the horns on this issue, and thank God.
Yeah.
So here's this story. Gretchen Whitmer continues to shut parents out of the process and issue flimsy platitudes only when she's caught red-handed. These videos, there's a whole series of them. This is the original story from Chris Rufo, who has done a lot of work in this field for a very long time. The Michigan Department of Education has adopted a radical gender theory program that promotes gender fluidity beginning in elementary school and encourages teachers to facilitate the sexual transition of minors. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole article word for word, but he does note these videos he has obtained, which clicking the link here will actually take you to where you can download them all. And actually, Tom, you just brought to my attention, there's, I guess, a really good 8-minute version of that called Secrets from Parents, which you can watch on Rumble at this Restoring Ottawa. I don't know if we want to play the whole clip on the show just because it'll break up the flow of things. And Tom, I know your time is short, but thank you so much for sending this to me, because I was facing down the prospect of watching 8 hours of these videos, which are a lot more than just introducing themselves with cat analogies. First off, hey, Tom, Shane, have you guys ever had a business meeting where they start off, never mind the cat stuff, but just asking, hey, everyone, tell us in chat how you're doing today on a scale of 1 to 10? I mean, there's something that speaks to me about this clip. That's like, the world that these people live in is one where there's nothing professional about anything. It's like, hey, we're having a serious topic to talk about.
Infantilization of everything in America.
Yeah. There's definitely some part of that to this. But anyway.
Adam, I don't mind kicking it off by saying, it is unconscionable what the MDE has allowed. They are literally instructing, in that 8-minute video, I think is a real good one. They're literally instructing teachers how to lie to parents and, how to make sure that, report cards don't go home with the wrong name that might, so we got to lie to the parents if there's with the names on the report cards during parent-teacher conferences, how to lie to the parents and make sure that nothing comes up. This is, if the kids are suicidal, you've got to hide the fact that, they're involved with this transgender stuff at school. This is dangerous. It's incredible. I can't believe this is happening. I was very happy to see Tudor Dixon coming out blasting this. And, I saw a Bridge article that claimed that Whitmer came out, opposing it. But if you looked at the quote, it's nothing. Like you said in your email, Adam, the Dems are not going to oppose this stuff. They would get lambasted. The radical left has taken over the Democrat Party, and they are silencing any kind of reasonable people within the Democrat Party.
Yeah, that's where I think the big opportunity here is on this, folks, is that when this issue is called out in public, their answer is not going to be to deny it and try to cover it up. There was that feeble let me go back to it. I was going to show something else first, but let me show this now. Going back to that post of Tudor's, which is really revealing, that she posts this letter that Whitmer sent out, and it's backpedaling, saying, here, I want to encourage you to bring parents' perspectives into all the work you do for blah, blah, blah. But that's not the normal reaction you're going to get. If the Democrats are called out on that there's a proposal on the ballot that, if put into the state constitution, would prevent parents from stopping their children from having permanent sexual surgeries, they wouldn't be able to say, oh, you're right, that is in there. Or, well, we don't condone that part of it. No, they'll double down. They'll do what Dana Nesselt says. And, oh, yeah, I think we should have drag queens in every classroom. That sounds great. And that's going to be the downfall of them, if and only if, that is, people really make an issue out of this. And it's really encouraging to see Tudor doing that.
Right. This is the last thing Democrats want to be talking about. But I was shocked, and I really thought that there's something here when I saw two Michigan Department of Education press releases, one after the other. I think one on Thursday and one on Friday, basically, just quoting some parents that are involved in this transgender stuff and trying to really justify what they're doing to kids that are as young as 3, 4, 5 years old. It's insanity. And so then they're trying to defend lying to parents. It's incredible. This is kind of a something that could really a game changer, I think.
Yeah, I do want to play.
If you remember, though, in Virginia, in the prelude to Glenn Youngkin winning, there was a lot of these sort of instances in Loudoun County, Virginia. I believe there was one instance there where there was like a trans person who was in the wrong bathroom as their birth assigned gender and committed some sort of sexual assault, and then the school tried to cover it up. I believe that was one of the cases. So this sort of culture war thing happened in Virginia and lit up the Virginia grassroots, and then Glenn Youngkin won unexpectedly by a pretty wide margin. So these sort of issues, I think, are the key to us turning the momentum around and winning here in Michigan in November.
Yeah. And by the way, Tom, let me know if you're having issues hearing Shane. I know there's some weird audio thing we're doing here where I've got my phone on and I'm kind of talking into it and the mic at the same time. If you guys have seen, literally, we have a phone connection going here, but it's working, so we're going to stick with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to play this short clip. I did find this one clip in one of the videos. This is where a teacher is asking about the hiding of things from parents and how you go about doing that. And the answer is really revealing. So let me play this clip real quick.
Sorry, I have a student at my door right now too, but I think this is in the chat, but we are getting a lot of pushback about students under the age of 14 and needing parent consent to, call students by their preferred name, and also bathrooms and locker rooms that we have to have parent consent before we can allow that. So I just wanted to know at some point if you guys could speak to that, that would be great.
We're going to speak to it now because it comes up all the time.
This guy's an ACLU lawyer, by the way.
I wish I could tell
Looks
you,
like one.
you know, this model answer that just fits it. But the thing is, you have two things that are kind of hitting against. You have the legal issue of parental autonomy. In other words, the right of parents to make decisions for their own children, which is constitutionally protected. And then, of course, you also have the well-being of the student that you are trying to educate and wanting to make sure that they're being provided a supportive learning environment. And we also know that when parents are not supportive of transgender kids or LGBT kids, that this can create a lot of problems for kids. Sometimes it can put them in harm's way. So by law, no, you're not required to have parental permission to address a student in accordance with their preferred pronoun or preferred name. But it's probably a good idea if a student says, I'd like to be called this. This is how I identify, to maybe have a conversation with that student if they have spoken with their parents about it, if they do have support at home, if they have some concern, if, that their parents even know about something like that. And then to make a decision in terms of what's really in the best interest of that child at the school. We always want to encourage school districts, if they can, have a conversation, if the student is.
Yeah, if they can. And you see where he's going with this. By the way, I don't know if you guys caught this at the very beginning when we did our little cold open there, but at the beginning of all these videos, they've got this notice you see on the right-hand side there, posted by Katie Lemmer. Please note the content of these trainings cannot be utilized or shared without the expressed authorized permission of the Michigan Department of Education. Well, but then at the end, we have this. Go to the very end here.
Chat, so that you can kind of consider
with colleagues or friends.
Okay, here we go.
As they're kind of navigating the school system and school activities and things like that.
Thank you for watching. Sharing this video with colleagues or friends is strongly encouraged.
Thanks, Department of Education. We're happy to. We will be sharing them far and wide. So there you go. And that's just one little bit of it. So
it sounds like they're, kind of starting, to lay the groundwork for talking to kids about, indoctrinating them into this transgender thing, and then talking to them about, and if they get any sort of pushback from it at home, the parents will be sanctioned and the parents will be punished. I believe I've already seen a few instances of this happening in like Canada, where if the parents don't go along with this after they're indoctrinated by perverts and groomers in schools, that the parents are punished, the parents are sanctioned, the parents are put in jail. So they really do believe that your children are their property, and they want to cloak this agenda for as long as possible till it's, till they have the culture at a certain point, and then they'll turn up the authoritarianism from there.
yeah, I think that's a fundamental part of it, is the notion that we're not individuals, and we're not, children are not owned by their parents or their families there, but we're all part of the state. There was some tweet I saw the other day where a new parent who had taken his child to a doctor, and the doctor was asking him these intrusive questions, and he objected, and the doctor said, well, you understand he's not just your kid, he's the government's kid too.
Oh, and remember, that was the post that the Democrat Party here in Michigan posted, and it went viral, and they backpedaled, went national back in January. And Tudor Dixon mentioned that as well. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that tweet here.
I mean, there really needs to be an understanding. There's a fundamental difference between how the Republicans and Democrats view the parent-child relationship. I mean, it's completely different. And, I think 90% of the citizens in Michigan would side with the Republican view, but if it was talked about, and that's the last thing Dems want to be talking about right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And all the more reason why it should be talked about. There was another story, by the way, we tweeted this a long time ago, and I'd almost forgotten about it, but I managed to pull it back up. Hold on, let me find it here. This is from a few months ago. Here we go. Let me pull this up on the screen. This was a teacher not a teacher, I'm sorry, a doctor at the University of Michigan. This was in August, and it's going back to an April tweet that she made. in the response, this is in response to Eli Ehrlich, who is a transgender activist who had posted, if you live in any of the states that are banning trans healthcare, my trans friends and I are sending out prescribed testosterone, spironolactone, and estradiol. I assume these are puberty blockers, who are now unable to get prescriptions. No questions asked, which I'm pretty sure is illegal under federal law. And then this doctor who practices at University of Michigan Medicine says, I know a lot of trans folks are losing their meds these days. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Completely unrelated to the fact that trans youth in many states can't get access to meds. I always send refills to any of my patients. No questions asked. So this stuff is not like, this is not fringe. This is happening everywhere.
Widespread. And there was recent videos and propaganda produced by the children's hospitals in Boston and Chicago, where they were describing, how they do hysterectomies and different surgeries on trans children. Then they tried to backtrack, tried to double talk, but they actually put it on their website that they did these mutilations on children. And then the Chicago Children's Hospital did an interview with a trans youth, maybe 12 years old, and the trans youth was dressed like a prostitute. So this is really, really sick stuff, and it is pervasive, and it's $1 billion industry. The healthcare industry is behind it. Big pharma is getting money on this. So the institutional power behind it is massive.
Yeah, there's a really good article on this at the American Conservative called Trans Totalitarianism, Time for Moral Panic. And it showcases a lot of those things you just talked about, Shane. There's this terrifying image of skin that's been flayed off of an arm to be used to graft a artificial sex organ. And there's many, many links to these doctors and school boards and everybody else mainstreaming all this stuff.
And we know that there's a lot of regret later on. There's, the vast majority of these kids actually will come out of this transgender. I mean, that's what the studies show, is that they're going to, they're convinced or they have these ideas, but then later on in life, they decide that they're not. That's also the case for many who identify as homosexual as well. So, I mean, the idea that we're affirming something, or that the state is affirming something that is going to come to fruition, or not going to come to fruition, it's actually going to switch later on, is quite disturbing as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, the big thing that in particular girls were warned about was anorexia and bulimia. And these were very common mental disorders that teenagers had, because teenagers are full of hormones and they're insecure, and this is, things that they do to themselves. I saw someone made a meme about this, and there was a picture of a guy in the 80s with a huge glam mohawk, and then 20 years later, a guy in a couch saying, I can't believe I had that hair when I was that age. And then there's another guy, and he's older, and there's a picture of a guy who's a goth. I can't believe I was a goth when I was in high school. And now there's another picture of an adult, going like this. And I can't believe when I was a teenager I cut my genitals off. I mean, that's the worst of it. Is it's irreversible. It's irreversible harm that they're doing, and these are children who should not be able to make these decisions on their own because they're not mature enough. That's why we don't allow kids to get tattoos. Why we don't allow kids to own handguns. There's reasons for these things.
And another thing that's happening that's despicable in these schools is that children who are, they might have autism or be on the spectrum or be having emotional or mental disorders, maybe from, being forced to wear masks or being kept from being isolated in their homes for months and months for a pandemic that, all that never should have happened. But for whatever reason, there's more, suicidal tendencies, there's more anxiety, more mental illness. And then they go to their, pro-LGBT counselor in school, and they're like, well, maybe you're transgender. Maybe you should adopt this lifestyle, and then we'll give you sympathy. We'll all be in your corner, and we'll all celebrate you, and we'll all love you. And then that's one of the ways that they're coerced. The way they're coercing children into doing this is really diabolical.
Yeah. There's a really great thread I remember seeing some months ago that laid this all out, that the agenda really, this is a time when a lot of conservatives were saying it's all about grooming kids, and they're making the point about groomers and so on and so on. And it's not about grooming kids. It's about turning them into little revolutionaries. You start by breaking down their self-esteem by saying they're all either members of an oppressed race or an oppressive race. And then you give them an out to become a part of the oppressed race by having a non-standard gender identity. And then we can all be oppressed. And that's the MO of the left, is they want everybody to be viewing all of society as against them and grinding them down, and therefore they need to overthrow the system. And you see in these videos too, and even in the slides and everywhere else, they talk constantly about dismantling the system. It's everywhere. Here's the here, I'll put this back up on the screen. Here is the agenda where you can download these videos. It's what's linked in that Chris Rufo story. And it's all over this stuff. I'm trying to see if I can find, where's the word? I'm looking in the wrong browser window. Yeah, so, well, anyway, it's in here somewhere. You guys can read it on your own. Yeah, it really is. Here, let me see if I can find it this way. Maybe not. Oh, at any rate.
Hey, Adam, let me, I got to go here soon, but let me also mention that, you know, for a few more days, there's public comment for early childhood, for birth through 5-year-old early childhood state standards, educational standards. I just sent you the link, but this is birth to 5 years old. And if you do a search, there's 5 times where gender identity is included in this birth through 5 standards. That and people can still make public comments. There's the button down there just below that, but
yep.
You know, they are trying to insist that adults who deal with birth through 5-year-old kids need to be very familiar with gender identities to be able to help these kids that are 5 years old that are dealing with gender identities, and they're just really kind of normalizing this whole thing that they're trying to do with these kids. It's really sad, but I wanted to come on today, and when we talked about it, it really is, as a state board member, I know Nikki and we intend to really continue sounding the alarm on this. I brought it up at the state board meeting, and these videos on Tuesday, and Dr. Rice, the state superintendent, he didn't want to address it in public, and so I think that this is a real assault on parents, and there's got to be a clear line. This has got to stop.
Yeah, and I certainly hope with if we can get Tammy Carlone and Linda Lee Tarver elected to the State Board of Education this year, that you guys will no longer be at least not in the minority. It'll be tied up at that point if we can pull that one off. So I certainly wish the best for Tammy and for Linda Lee Tarver. Do you know? I'm sure you must, because you were on the ballot. Is it a partisan ballot or is it in the nonpartisan section?
I'm not on the ballot, but
but you were. Yeah. I mean, in the past.
Oh yeah, it's partisan. Oh yeah,
okay.
It's Republican, Democrat. Yep.
So if they vote straight ticket Republican, that will count for Linda and Tammy as well.
Absolutely, but I just spoke at a group of 14 people running for local school board on the west side of the state a couple days ago. There's a ton of people running, and those are nonpartisan, Adam. I mean,
yeah.
It's the back of the ballot below. A lot of other races, but they need to know there's tons of good candidates that are running at the local level that are opposed to all this stuff and critical race theory and all of it. So there's a wave coming. We just got to make sure everybody knows about it. Yeah,
we did a show. Well, I did a show a couple nights ago about producing a voter guide flyer that people can hand out in their precincts, because no statewide organization can do that for you folks, because every district is going to have different candidates running for school board and for judge and for these nonpartisan seats. But a lot of Republican voters will show up at the polls and don't know that who they should vote for these judgeships, for the local board of education, the school boards. Patty P in the chat says, don't encourage people to vote straight ticket. We need voters to vote in every race. Well, as long as they don't fail to vote in the nonpartisan section, voting straight ticket just ensures you vote for all the Republicans. But you're right; it would not apply to any of the nonpartisan races or the proposals. And we'll talk about proposals 2 and 3, in particular proposal 3, in just a moment, because I think that's where we're going with this. But you're absolutely right, John. The local school boards matter enormously.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court also is nonpartisan.
Yep.
But hey, yeah, I got to go. You guys are doing great work. I support you. I hope everybody listening will continue to support Rescue Mission. You guys are doing great work.
Hey, right on. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thanks,
the
Adam.
words and support. So thanks for joining us, Tom.
Hey.
And real quick, just to follow up on what Tom just said, here is the link at the top of our screen where you can, oh, my hand's free now. Here's the link at the top of the screen where you can submit your comments on this early childhood standards of quality birth to kindergarten proposed administrative rule. You can see the link here on the screen. So if you can't write it down right now, you can watch the video once it's archived on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook, and just pause the video here and you can copy down that link there. And there it is. You've got until 5 p.m. on September 21st to turn that in. So great points, especially what Tom was saying earlier about getting involved on the hey, Tyler, we see you on YouTube. Yes, we see our comments on Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. I'm sorry, Tyler, you were on Rumble. Oh my gosh, I didn't look over. Rumble does not integrate with our video app, so sometimes I have to make a point to glance over and see the chat on Rumble as well. But yes, Tyler, we see you on Rumble and YouTube as well. But anyway, yeah, just to reiterate Tom McMillan's point there about making sure that all the voters in your precinct know who the good guys are for school boards, and of course, informing them about Proposal 3. On that note, I want to bring in another guest we've got on tonight. Randy Bishop, how are you doing, buddy?
Good, Adam. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you great. Yep.
Okay, good. I appreciate your guys' efforts, everything Rescue Michigan is doing. But we need a call to action of all the grassroots Army folks in the state of Michigan. Tudor Dixon's campaign is not getting the financial resources it was promised by Betsy DeVos and the DeVos family. That's why we haven't seen any TV ads, mailers, or anything from her. Persona non grata. We need to create the media narrative.
Yeah.
Did you see the response the liberals in the mainstream media gave to Governor Ron DeSantis sending 50 immigrants to Martha's Vineyards?
I did. I thought it was a fantastic backfire. I think in one I mean, honestly, some of the conservatives I follow thought originally when he sent these 50 illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, there was just going to be it was a stunt that wasn't going to work well. But my gosh, it just informed the entire country of what absolute rank hypocrites these people are, that they don't want all that rosy talk about everyone's welcome here, and it just goes to show the minute that the problem is in your backyard, suddenly the tune changes. And it was like, this is, I think, a great point that everyone needs to emphasize, especially about Gretchen Whitmer and the Democrats in general. The hallmark of leftist governance is never having to live with the consequences of your own actions. And you see it with Whitmer breaking all of her COVID rules, telling everyone to stay at home, looking at four walls, neglecting your family. And then what does she do? Flies off to Florida, where she told us we couldn't go to visit her dad because he was sick.
Right. Well, we have an idea that we've brainstormed here at the Antrim County Conservative Union, and a lot of my listeners on my show. By the way, I'm live 9 to noon, Monday through Friday, yourdefendingfathers.com. It repeats every 3 hours on that website. The idea is we have got to go absolutely on the radical left's agenda offensive like they do. Starting next Sunday, we have 44 days before the election. We need people to go to huge mega churches in Detroit. Hopefully, perhaps some of our Black brothers and sisters can take the time to go there. We need to go to every Catholic church in the state of Michigan. And we need to interrupt the service. You need to call out the priest. You need to call out the pastor in front of the flock and tell them, shame on you. You are going to sit quiet. You're going to sit idly by, not register to vote, or vote for Proposal 3. Thou shalt not kill. If you don't understand that in the 10 Commandments, why are you in church? Why do you call yourself a Christian? Catholics that are pro-choice, that have been hiding in the pews for years, not called out by these priests, need to be called out by us. We need to be arrested, if necessary, for causing a scene at the mega churches of this state and every single Catholic church in Michigan. And we need it to make the media that radical people are standing up in churches calling for the people of churches to vote no on Proposal 3. This thing's going to pass. ACLU has $10 million in funding in TV mailers that are going to be in our mailboxes. The opposition, barely 462,000, and they've already spent like 80% of it. Enough is enough. It's time that we, the people, stand up and do something so radical that we get the media to cover it. I'm calling on everybody we know to be in churches next Sunday, every Sunday until Election Day.
Well, a couple of things to that point, and there's some chats some comments in the chat I want to read as well. Certainly, your own church. People need to be calling this stuff out every single time. Now, going into Detroit churches and having a disruption, I don't know that that's a politically great idea. However, I certainly think people should be talking to everybody at those churches, flyering every car in the parking lot with maybe our flyers, which, by the way, we sold out of. We're going to have another run coming out really soon. And if you guys haven't already seen it, but it draws extreme attention to, number one, the absolute barbarity of what the abortion proposal actually is. Because you're right, people don't know what's actually in there at all. And number two, of course, as we've just talked about, this child sexual abuse is all in there too. And the silence from these churches is deafening. I see Ben Hewer says 501c3 requires them to be neutral on such things, old problems.
Absolutely does not.
That's an excuse that they've come up with.
No, stop. The Johnson Amendment of 1954 is unconstitutional. Okay, Pulpit Freedom Sunday will provide legal representation to any pastor in America who speaks out on this issue. They will defend them if the IRS steps in and rescinds their 501c3 status. Look it up, Pulpit Freedom Sunday. They've been doing it for years, usually every month before upcoming elections. October, they're famous for it. 2,700 churches participated last election cycle. That is a load of excuse. Yeah, that is not true. And you can absolutely fight it.
Ben says, read the 501c3 rules. I'm quite familiar with them, Ben. Let me tell you what they say. Number one, you can't engage in electioneering. That has no bearing on issue advocacy, and that has no bearing on issue discussion. So yeah, maybe saying vote no is an issue, but telling everybody, do you understand what's in this proposal is every single kind of abortion, including the most barbaric. It actually would prevent the investigation of infanticides. It would even allow children to be sexually mutilated at the direction of teachers, social workers, without their parents' knowledge or consent, and even over their opposition. That's what's in this, and everybody saying anything else is lying to you.
What is sterilization in there for, Adam? What does sterilization have to do with abortion?
Well, it is in there.
Can anybody explain to me what sterilization has to do with abortion? The reason they want the kids to ask a very simple question. Are you sure, Billy, that you're a boy? Are you sure you're a boy? Questioning. That is in that presentation, that link of that Rumble video that Tom McMillan provided to you guys. She's actually calling for, as soon as the kids are out of diapers and have the ability to start to communicate, where they can talk about 3-4 years old. Are you sure you're a boy? Are you sure you're a girl? And do you really want to have a baby if you're a girl? Maybe you should be sterilized, and parents wouldn't even know about it.
Yeah,
it's in the proposal.
I'm sure they would claim that sterilization is a form of birth control. But you're right. They understand. They knew what they were doing when they wrote that proposal. They knew exactly what they were doing. They put those words in there for a reason. And there's a reason why it says an individual right to all things relating to reproduction.
Yes. And another point on your 501c3 rules, social education. That is an absolute function of a 501c3 and a 501c4. And like you said, Adam, this is an issue where you are educating the public. It's a social education discussion that can be had in churches without any violations. And I hate people that use the IRS 501c3 status as the sounding board as to why they can't talk about this crap. It is a false argument, and it does not hold any water.
And the reality is the IRS has been targeting conservative organizations for years. They did it throughout the Obama administration. It was a huge scandal. It took years and years of litigation. The alternative is silence. The alternative is the alternative to not fighting and not standing up for your rights is to lose them. So is it risky?
We need people.
But there's no
Linda Lee Tarver needs to go into black churches next Sunday. Okay. Darwin Giles, every single black Republican activist we have that we know needs to be in a mega church of 3,000-4,000 black people and questioning and challenging the pastor on this proposal. Why are you not talking about it and educating the flock about it and what it contains? It needs to happen, Adam. And we would get so much media coverage out of this thing. We could absolutely blow this thing up in 1 week. We could destroy their PR push on this thing and absolutely wipe out that $10 million budget that ACLU is going to use against us.
And from the chat, Rosemary Denton said, a small group of us at St. Kenneth's in Plymouth 2 weeks ago, Father Becksack was irate, told people in pews we were trespassing and stopping traffic, even though they weren't, and to vote their conscience. So unfortunately, a lot of these Catholic priests, they are very liberal leaning, and they don't want to take any sort of a stance on any issue, even if it means something that's, this heinous and really, and as you guys mentioned, is really about population control and culling the herd, which is why they want, more death, more abortion, more murder. And it's all.
But if they had a group of people, Shane, to stand up during Mass and absolutely interrupt the Mass and force the priest to either call in his security folks that are in the church that are supposed to be, keeping the crowd under control, challenging the priest, go up for communion and right in his face when he's getting ready to hand you the wafer, ask him, why are you not talking about Proposal 3? And make a scene and get arrested. Get somebody to do something where the media then is going to be alerted. Maybe even call some media folks and tell them what you're planning on doing and tell them to meet you at the Catholic churches. It's got to happen.
I personally do not advise people to get arrested, but you do what your conscience dictates. And, the thing about this, and to Rosemary's point about this pastor or father, that exposes them for who they really are. To paraphrase an old civil rights saying, not every Catholic's a Catholic. But if people in Detroit see what they're actually trying to expose children to, they're going to be like, whoa, is that really in there? And that's provable. The media's got to be called out on their lies on this too. That's another thing. And hopefully Tudor will do more of that, especially in the debates and things, to point out how the media has just completely whitewashed what the legal reality of this proposal is.
Well, just to finish up with you guys, I appreciate you having me on tonight, Adam, Shane. We are pushing after a review of all the ballot proposals, we're voting no on everything. All the ballot proposals are no. We're done with all of it. And that's also a message I would hope you guys would get out for us.
Yeah, that's certainly the easy way to say it. And it's certainly for all, because I don't know what local proposals there are anywhere, but they're always bad. They're always tax hikes.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one, which we've talked about on other shows, about allowing lawmakers in the House to serve 6 terms instead of 3.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the financial disclosure carrot that they've tied to the title of that, I don't know if you guys are aware, they do not have to provide those financial disclosure statements, Adam, until after they're elected. Not as candidates, but once they're in elected office, then they have to provide those disclosures. It's a complete false premise that they're trying to push on the title of Proposal 1.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing I wanted to bring up about Prop 3 is I was today at a Stand Up Michigan meeting, and I saw there was 2 different types of lit. One that said vote no on Proposal 3, and the other one said vote no on reproductive rights for all. The one that says vote no on reproductive rights for all, even though I think it's well-intentioned, that makes it sound like we're opposing reproductive rights. When it says vote no on Prop 3,
Right.
and you hand that to people, we're not using their propaganda. We're not unwittingly putting forward their talking points. So just definitely tell people vote no on Prop 3. Use any literature you get. Make sure it says vote no on Prop 3. Don't use their slogans and perpetuate their
Never
branding
let
for
them
them.
frame the issue. Yep.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you. I got to get into another Zoom meeting. I appreciate it. God
Randy.
bless you guys for the work you're doing. I support you guys totally.
Hey, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
have a good night.
Yep.
Later.
So there you go.
The always colorful Trucker Randy.
Yeah, colorful for sure. Yeah, and look, and just to reiterate, folks, our advice, Rescue Michigan's advice, is never to put yourself in the law's harm's way with the law. But we are also going to rely on you as free people to decide what is in your moral judgment the best and most effective thing to do, and that's what's most important. And
church outreach to churches is very important, particularly on Prop 3. If I think, a lot of the church leadership is corrupt at every level, but the average rank and file churchgoer would hate something like this if they were actually made aware of what was in it. So outreach to Christians is very important. Getting out the vote among Christians is very important, and that is the key to defeating Prop 3.
Yeah. And I think Prop 3 at this point is more pernicious than even Prop 2 is, and also the key to taking down Gretchen Whitmer, because this is all part of one thing. It's all about the radical destruction of the family and the government seizing control of children and potentially brutalizing them, which we see happening on a massive scale all across the country. And people don't want to see it. They want to pretend it's not happening. And you have to get in their faces. And I give Randy credit for being that ambitious about it. I don't know if getting yourself arrested is a good tactic. I don't think it usually is. But I'll go back to this article. As soon as I can find it. Let me find the comment in here. Here we go. This is from that article in the American Conservative I had on the screen earlier about the moral outrage that we need to have. And here's the point they were making, or one of the many points they made in this story, is the phenomenon. When I was researching Live Not by Lies, that's the author's book, Rod Dreher, people who escaped communism kept telling me that one of the characteristics of the totalitarian regimes they escaped was the state inserting itself between children and their parents. This is well known to historians, as a matter of fact. The theory is that the state is the true parent and as such needs to defend the rights of children against their parents who are carriers of old oppressive values. Does any sound familiar to any of you guys? Necessary to liberate children from the past and from its evil values. And people thought this would never, ever be accepted in America, but now it's here. And people need to be expressing the moral outrage about this and speaking the truth about it. Because, frankly, there's not much of that going on, folks. And we need you guys to fill the void. Let me play a video. I saw one on TV today. I don't think this is the same one. Patty P says, what article is that? I'll pull it up again. Hold on. It was, where'd it go? Hold on, I gotta find it now. I shouldn't have 2 dozen different browser windows open at once. Here we go. It's called Trans-Totalitarianism, the Time for Moral Panic at the American Conservative magazine. So you can look that up. It came out a little over a month ago. So check that out there. There's a lot of great information in that article, by the way. But anyway, let me bring up this other thing I was going to share with you guys. This is a video about Prop 3. I think it's from Faith to Action, Michigan. So we'll play the clip here. Let me know if you guys don't hear it. Let me know.
Michigan. Have you heard about the proposed Michigan constitutional amendment called Reproductive Freedom for All?
Already off on the wrong foot. It's not called that. It's called Prop 3, the abortion amendment, the abortion and child sterilization amendment. Or, by the way, if your time is short, why even say this? Just get right into it.
It has been sold to us as a new individual right to reproductive freedom. It's not.
It's a lot of words on the page. I mean, what's the point of just showing the text of the bill? You know,
We've been told that it will improve women's health in our state.
keep repeating the talking points of the opposition.
It won't. They told us it would grant us freedom. They lied. This proposal is dangerous for our women because it subjects them to significantly lower health and safety standards.
For abortions? Oh, are we pro-abortion now? Is that who they're going to explain this to? Oh, yeah, if you want to have an abortion, you know what? This proposal will actually make abortions more dangerous. That sounds like a great, effective message.
This proposal is dangerous for our babies because it allows for
Because it kills them.
abortion at any time during the pregnancy, even including the time of birth.
All right, one good point.
This proposal is dangerous for our children because it allows for sterilization and abortion without parental consent. This proposal is dangerous for parents because it strips away our right to make decisions for our children. But we, the people of the great state of Michigan, are better than that. We will not be deceived. We will not allow this dangerous proposed amendment to come into our state.
Blah, 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 blah.
We, Michiganders, fight for our children. We protect the innocent. We, together, will stand up to keep Michigan women, children, and parents safe.
There's more? How long does
It's
this go?
dangerous for women.
Dangerous for women.
Dangerous for women. Peligroso para las mujeres.
It's dangerous for children.
Dangerous for children.
Dangerous for children.
It's dangerous for parents.
Dangerous for parents.
Dangerous for parents.
It's dangerous for Michigan.
For Michigan. For Michigan.
For Michigan.
For Michigan.
For Michigan.
Show up and vote against the Reproductive Freedom for All proposal this November.
I have to assume this came out before the proposal got a number. But yeah, chat, let us know on a scale of cat what you think of that ad.
I think that is made by the same group that made the flyers that I just talked about, the ones that said oppose reproductive freedom for all. That's like the first thing you see on one of the sides of the flyers.
Yeah, by the way, if you're just tuning in, you missed the joke about the scale of cat, but just let us know what you thought about that ad. I really want to get your guys' thoughts on it. I mean, it's better than nothing. I appreciate the attempt, but if you're going to put the time and money into making an ad like this, why don't you take the time to make it more powerful and hard-hitting and not repeat the messaging and framing of the other side on this stuff? Yeah, Patty P says, horrible ad, slow talker. I agree. That was not the ad I saw today. The ad I saw on TV, I was just in a restaurant, so I didn't catch the whole thing. But the bottom line was, I might have been paid for by Faith to Action. I'm not sure if I caught who it was paid for by, but the thrust of the ad was, it's too extreme and too confusing. That was one of the points they're trying to make about the proposal, is it's too confusing, which I don't think was a very good way of capturing the essence of it. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. Tom McMillan and I actually did that very same thing when we were fighting Prop 1 in 2015, saying there's so much other garbage in this tax hike that's not going to fixing roads. And that was an effective tactic against that proposal, because when voters think, what's this other stuff I don't know about, then they get suspicious and will vote no. But voters are going to go into the voting booths about this thinking either, number one, this is either pro-abortion or I'm either voting yes for pro-choice and no for pro-life, unless they understand the details of the child sexual abuse that's in there, which, as I've been saying all along, is actually probably the most effective point against this whole proposal. The pro-life people are going to vote no on this proposal no matter what. You want to get the people in the middle. You tell them, I mean, don't just say it's confusing. Say what's in there. What's in there is children can be sterilized without the parents' consent. Children can have sex changes without the parents' consent. That's what's missing. That's what's missing.
And plus, another thing I don't like about this ad is like it has this kind of hopeful branding on it. What it needs to be is dark and negative. It's a dark amendment. The stuff in it is evil. Hit the actual nuts and bolts of it. And it shouldn't be like, well, we as Michiganders can never be deceived. Well, if you look at the past results of elections, that's not the case. We can be deceived. It's that we need to be frightened of this horrible ballot initiative and just run through the facts and get through it, quickly without any fluff. And so the public, people who, 30 seconds should be able to get through the meat of what's in the proposal and why it's bad and why it should be opposed without calling it reproductive freedom for all. So
yeah,
a lot of stuff in there that wasn't good in my opinion.
If you're making a video, use images. Like if I make a video, that's going to be in there. Everything on our flyer is going to be in there. It's going to be a montage of drag queens twerking in front of young children. There is an image I saw on Twitter a few weeks ago, I'm trying to find it, which had a picture of a child who not only had this skin graft on her leg where they cut off a pound of flesh, but then also the thing that was attached to her. And it was the most disgusting thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I went looking for it today and it was deleted by Twitter. They don't want people to see this stuff. And not that Twitter has a problem with images like that. Twitter is totally pro-LGBT, just not able to see what the reality of it actually is when push comes to shove.
Yeah, many kids have said, especially ones that are attempting to detransition now after they said that, the teachers didn't tell them what it would actually be like, what it would actually look like. The doctors didn't tell them. They just told, oh, you're a girl, you need to become a girl now. They were never told of what would happen.
Many people who have detransitioned who have stories to tell. By the way, I've got a movie recommendation for everybody. You have to see this movie. Transgressive. It's the Tucker Carlson documentary. It's on Fox Nation. Fox Nation is worth the price of admission for that alone. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. It was graphic. The storytelling was incredible. And again, the use of firsthand materials from these people and their propaganda. They actually played a clip in the video of a hypnosis tape that they play for children to listen to as they go to sleep about how wonderful it'll be to be a member of the opposite sex. I mean, it was terrifying. It was gut-wrenching. Don't buy that piece of garbage movie, My Son Hunter. Watch Transgressive. It is shocking. Speaking of My Son Hunter, I saw the most hilarious review of My Son Hunter today by David Cole. I did a video about My Son Hunter. I don't know. Shane, have you ever seen that? Have you seen that movie yet?
I don't plan on it.
All right. I'll show you this review. It's very, very funny. Let me find it here. If you guys don't know who David Cole is, he's an exiled conservative, like literally kicked off of every other thing in the universe.
Is he a Taki Mag guy?
This is Taki Mag. You got it. Here's his description. I don't want this entire column to be a movie review, but it's unfair to be condemnatory without giving reasons. So, broad strokes. The movie is just a collection of conservative memes brought to life by actors. The CNN mostly peaceful, fiery riot meme. The blackface of white supremacy meme. Epstein didn't kill himself. Dog-faced pony soldier. 90 minutes of play-acted memes that will make conservatives cheer. Oh, wow, that's familiar to me. It's like how the audience at a corporate retreat cheers whenever a hired gun has-been entertainer works their names into his routine. My breakfast was pretty bad, but not as bad as Betty Baxter's break room coffee, am I right? With the exception of the guy playing Hunter, the acting by a badly dubbed Serbian cast is atrocious. Gina Carano, on the other hand, should have been dubbed. It could have only helped. This goes on, but you guys get the idea. And I did the whole review about this earlier. It's fodder for people that want to hear their beliefs reinforced. If you want a film that will challenge people's beliefs, something that will shock the conscience of people, get Transgressive. It's amazing. Anyway, what else we got this week, Shane? You got anything you want to bring up?
Yeah, I got an article I wrote in. I sent it over to you in the chat. It shows kind of what this whole transgender thing is leading toward, and Biden regime actually signed an executive order on
Oh yeah, I saw
about a
this.
week ago. Yep, and it explicitly calls for genetic editing and for government scientists to be able to hack into the cellular code and reprogram it for their own ends. So this is it's worse than just a fad or something that's gonna hopefully come and gone. It's not. They're gonna kind of use transgenderism as a way to open the door to very strange genetic editing. You see, I've been told that now if a child at school says that they identify as a dog or a cat, that the whole school has to go along with it, because otherwise it would be bullying. So
Yeah.
this is the sort of thing that they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing this bizarre genetic editing, and they have the technology now to actually be able to do it, to splice humans with other species. And it's pushed on the kids. The kids are already kind of identifying this trans species or whatever they want to call it. And as laughable as it seems, as absurd as it seems, this is another potential billion-dollar industry. Every medical professional has a lot to gain from this. Healthcare industry, big pharma, they're gonna have a whole giant industry of people here under the guise of transhumanism to do these sort of mad scientist experiments on. So that's what they're doing. It's now in an executive order, which isn't necessarily the law of the land, but to the Biden regime it is. So it's in an executive order.
It is law of the land, yeah. And there you go, folks. Here's the link at the top. There's the title, and the link to the order is also in Shane's article. You had another piece I meant to share. I think it was from today. About Mike Pompeo. That's right. Yeah, this guy. So he's clearly announcing he's going to try to run for president. I don't think that's going to go very well for him, but I don't know. Do you really get the sense that there's a lot of Trumpsters or even Republicans in general that are really into Mike Pompeo? I don't think very many people are going to fall for it.
My thought is that it's a grift. He's going to be able to get a lot of money from never Trumpers who are desperate for someone to stop Trump. He can say, "Oh, I was part of the administration. He did helped do a lot of the accomplishments of Trump. And when I go out against him, I'll have, the gravitas, I'll have the credibility to oppose Trump. And he'll be able to grift a lot of money off of that. And then afterwards, he'll get a job on CNN or Fox News or something.
Yeah.
As the token, neoconservative, the true conservative who opposed Trump's excesses or whatever. So it's a big grift. Maybe he is that delusional to think that he can actually run for president and win. I'm not 100% sure, but if it's him and Pence against Trump, I don't even see Pompeo registering nearly as much support as someone like Pence. Because
I think another part of it, though, could be the debates, that they want to have a bunch of people to dogpile on Trump, where the only person who would ever agree with Trump on anything would be Ron DeSantis, if he would even run, which he may not. He may bide his time and let Trump run for the seat. But as you point out in this article, Pompeo's been making a lot of remarks on really, really foolish things on the all of the foreign policy, which I remember when Trump was still president, he was telling, I think it was Laura Ingraham, how, Trump had a really great foreign policy idea and we executed it faithfully and blah, 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 which is all nonsense. He was sabotaging the Julian Assange pardoning. He was sabotaging him in Syria. He was sabotaging him in Afghanistan. Trump said, "I want the troops home." And, "Oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, sorry, your orders never got to the troops somehow." And you quote him here, "By aiding Ukraine, we undermined the creation of a Russia-Chinese axis bent." By aiding Ukraine, we created the Russia-Chinese axis. We've driven them closer and closer than ever before. And he says, look at this lunatic. "I believe in Ukraine has found its George Washington in the embodiment of Volodymyr Zelensky." By the way, if there's ever been an uglier name than Vladimir, it's got to be Volodymyr. Sorry to any Vladimirs in the audience watching.
And that statement by Pompeo saying Zelensky is what George Washington, that's not just a slap in the face of every American patriot, but that's just him performing for the defense contractors and for the military industrial complex we wants to have support from when he runs for president. So you're not going to find a more gratuitous hack than Mike Pompeo.
He gave some speech recently, I think it was like the Manhattan Institute or one of those think tanks, which was literally like the globalist policy doctrine for never-ending wars all over the world, which I honestly don't even know what these wackos end game is. I mean, we're at the point now where Russia, China, India, and Iran, which, Iran not so much, but those other three, we're talking 3 billion people have about had it with the US and the West in general and NATO. I mean, how in the world do they think they're gonna subjugate all of those countries at once? I mean, and the crazy thing is, China really is an enemy of ours, and the entire notion of going to war with Russia, I think from the get-go for the last 8 years has been based on one thing alone, and that is it had to be a narrative that they had to invent to get Trump. We might have made peace with Russia a long time ago, but we had to have a scapegoat for Hillary Clinton losing the election, and it's just snowballed ever since. And now we're at the point where Russia, instead of being our ally against China, is now our enemy with China, and it's insane.
And it may just be.
And they're looking at what happened in Ukraine and Iraq and Afghanistan, and all these other countries are looking at the West and going, you know what? I kind of think the U.S. is an unreliable partner here. I mean, I'm reading today. Armenia is talking about going with the U.S. instead of going with Russia because Azerbaijan's invading them, and Azerbaijan is supported by the U.S. and Israel. I don't think it's going to go well for you guys. I think it's a bad move, thinking that you're going to be a client state of the U.S. and not get stabbed in the back one of these days, like Ukraine's learning now. I mean, this is lunacy.
Yeah, and the BRICS coalition, which I believe is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, their nexus of power that they're building is just going to be more friendly and hospitable and desirable than working with the globalist powers, the EU, UN, IMF, US, global American empire, because they're comparatively less evil, less warmongering. And the U.S. empire may have just gone insane with megalomaniacal ambition. Right now, they're getting ready to send military aid to Taiwan, and China doesn't mess around when it comes to retaliating against us. Look at COVID, where that was created. So who knows what they're going to come up with as we goad them and try to fight a proxy war against them. Over in Taiwan, and I believe the only Republican in the Senate Armed Forces Committee who opposed that was Rand Paul. Seems all the other Republicans are on board, and maybe a handful of Democrats aren't. So dangerous times ahead.
We couldn't win in Afghanistan, but we'll win against Russia and China and India, and I mean even Brazil might have a big military, but they have 100 million people in that country. This is not Afghanistan, folks, or Iraq, or these are countries that have actual militaries. But and it's not like we haven't been involved in that in Ukraine. And what's the body count in Ukraine? It's tens of thousands of people. I mean, every day it's Russian drones from Iran destroying NATO hardware that came from the U.S. and Europe, to the point where they're starting to run low on things to give Ukraine. I mean, this is nuts.
But you look at the defense contractors, Raytheon, General Dynamics, and Lockheed Martin and others. Guess who is their keynote speaker at their upcoming annual trade show conference? Vladimir Zelensky. So
Zelensky. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
I was gonna guess Mike Pompeo, but now that you mentioned that, I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so ridiculous. But anyway. We should wrap up the show. So just to recap, everybody, if you guys didn't already see from our emails or the show Friday, we are going to be doing another run of the proposal flyer. I think the next version, I've gotten some good suggestions from people for more content. I think the next flyer is going to be all Prop 3. And that's not to say that Prop 2 isn't an important one worth fighting. But I think Prop 3 is going to be more winnable and ultimately going to have more of an effect on the governor race, which is more important. And frankly, after a year and a half of watching the quote unquote election integrity movement in Michigan screw up in every possible way, it's getting to be a bad fight. So sorry if I hurt anyone's feelings by saying that, but I'm just pointing that out because things have not gone well. And in part, that's because of careless messaging from a lot of people that should have done better. And frankly, I think it's something that's going to be more powerful for voters than having one flyer with two different issues on two different sides. And we got to do everything we can. We've also doubled our order for Gretchen Whitmer flyers. Apparently our print shop had a problem. They had a printer break down and they're just now getting them done being printed. So we're going to get them out to you guys as soon as we possibly can this week, but we're doubling the size of our order to get these things out. There's also a tool on our website now. Let me show you. Let me pull up our site here. And if you go to rescuemichigan.com and you click on the link to where we had the flyers available, now they are sold out. However, you can put in your contact information and we will try to connect you with somebody who has flyers because we sold them in boxes of 1,000. And we will try to put them in touch with you to get some to you, so that is still an option. But folks, we are low on time. The election is around the corner. We need everybody doing everything they can, and it's a numbers game, people. Every vote counts the same. You need to alert as many people as you possibly can in the real world. With a flyer, a knock on the door, a phone call. We're going to be launching some texting campaigns soon. And by the way, you can sign up at rescuemichigan.com and get your precinct voter file, which has cell phone numbers for most voters in your precinct, thousands of them. And you can start texting them and showing them you can get to, because if you click on the link on our flyer, or it's a QR code, but it will take you to it will take you to the page that actually explains what all is on these flyers, or what all is in these proposals. And what's all in there. I should actually update this with even more hard-hitting information is what I think I want to do. But you got to get the word out, people. Betty Nelson says, why is there no other option to Prop 3? It's a yes or no question. If you spend the money to put something on the ballot, then there you go. That's how this quote-unquote constitutional system works. You have enough money, you can put anything you want on the Michigan ballot. All you do is pay people to get the signatures. That's how our system goes. I don't think it's a very good system, but that's the system that we have. Carol Lynn says they are letting the inmates out in Venezuela so they can run to the border. I call that an invasion. Me too. All right. Anything else before you go for the night? I think we're going to probably have another midweek stream at some point because there's so much going on and things are happening on the fly. Yeah, I mean, this is the big thing, folks. And letting voters know what's actually in the proposal is going to be huge. Sandra Beatty, I don't know I'm sorry, Sandra, if I butchered your last name. That just blew me away. How do I have a PD file with you guys? Sandra, I'm not sure I understand your question. How do you have a precinct delegate file with you guys? Or the voter file, is that what you're talking about, Sandra? She's probably talking about the voter file and how it exists. That information is for sale, Sandra. Every campaign that has the money has these. Sorry if that is something that offends you, but your information is for sale. Google sells it, Facebook sells it, data brokers buy it, resell it.
Everybody's got it.
Some of that's public record. A lot of it is. Your vote history is public record, not who you voted for, but that you voted is public record. Donor information is public record. People have gotten information from, I think it's illegal now, but it used to be you could get CPL records. People take surveys from and answer questions from who knows who. That gets bought and sold. If you've ever donated to a campaign using WinRed, read their privacy policy. They sell that data. And the Democrats do that too. But we're one of the only people that actually makes this information available to you guys. So take advantage of it, because guess what? The Democrats are already, and they're ahead of the game. But the truth is powerful. The truth can set you free. And if the voters know the truth about these proposals, about Gretchen Whitmer's agenda and what they have in store for your kids, the people of Michigan will reject all of it. But as Randy pointed out, we're not getting some help from the big wigs, the fat cats. And by the way, they don't actually owe us that money either, you know? But you guys got to make up for that. That's a burden that we have to bear. So we all have to do our parts. Your mission between now and November 8th is to win your precinct.
And a little more over a little over a week from now, absentee ballots will start to go out. So the election day really isn't 44 or whatever days away. It's more like 10 days away. And you have to hit these voters now, because in certain areas, 60 to 70% of people vote absentee. So the time is now to get involved. We put these flyers out there for you. And Tom Banks asked, do you know that the flyer is actually changing the minds of undecided voters? Yes, it's part of the process, getting the word out. A lot of people have no idea what Prop 3 is right now. We have to get to them first. And when we meet them at the door with the flyer, if we're knowledgeable on the issue, we can explain it to them in a reasonable, sane manner. And that is what will change minds. There's tons of independents out there who are disaffected with both parties, who think, they see the radical fringes of both parties and they're turned off. If they have a reasonable individual come to their door, speak to them rationally, they will listen and it will sway them better than anything else that's out there.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot that I can actually bring people's chats up on the screen, but also to add to Shane's point, politics is a numbers game, and the way that people vote is often based on the number of things that they see. When I was working on Gary Glenn's campaign for state senate, the utility monopolies spent millions of dollars lying to voters about him over and over and over and over and over again. And at some point, we're like, are voters going to believe these ridiculous lies? They sure did. That does happen. And the fact is, by definition of your question, Tom, when you say, did it change the minds of undecided voters? They're undecided. Yes, there are certain hardcore pro-aborts that are going to vote yes no matter what it is. Most voters are either straight ticket Democrats or straight ticket Republicans, but the ones who are not are the ones that make the difference. And you can prove it to them. So, yeah, I mean, it is in the flyer, the language of the flyer, the language of the petition we use on the flyer. Our next version of the flyer, which will be it'll be both sides talking about the proposal. So we'll go into more depth of detail if we can. So I think that'll be even better than the first one. Plus, now we'll have the proposal number. You have to tell me how to pronounce your first name. Is it Iwan?
I think it's Ian.
Ian? Okay. You suggest talking to people about the props and the he's meant to erase and sent it instead. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, absolutely. We're talking about urging people to, I would say, start with the proposals. Start with the pro-abortion sexual mutilation of kids proposal, and then point out how every single Democrat supports this when push comes to shove. Ask them. Ask anyone running for office as a Democrat, do you support the abortion proposal? They'll say yes. They will say yes. Emma Birch asks, can you briefly explain the legalities again about making our own flyers for neighbors or whatever? I will, although I'm going to keep it short, but for the longer version, you can watch the video that we uploaded, or the live stream we did on Friday. Basically this, if you are an individual acting alone, you do not have to put a disclaimer on your flyer at all. That being said, if you are an officer of a state party or a county party, you might be interpreted to be acting as an agent of the party, and you don't want to be in a legal gray area. If you are combining spending from other people, like a bunch of you put together your money to pay for a flyer, then you have to be a group. That does not require that you incorporate. That does not require that you have a business or anything like that. But you do have to put a disclosure on the form that says paid for by so-and-so. Simplest thing is just to say paid for by your name. And you have to put your address on there as well. You can do a PO box, but only individuals acting alone are exempt from putting a paid for by notice on their flyers. Oh, and of course, newspapers never have to say paid for by the Detroit News when they endorse the Marxist nutcases that are running for office. On YouTube, Stephen Richard says Democrats are pedos. They'll remember drag queen kindergarten and Baskin Robbins 31 genders. They come with a lot of pervert stuff for sure. Yes, they do. And there's a lot of voters, in particular in the city of Detroit, that don't care for that kind of lunacy. And that's where that has to be, as Rennie Bishop was getting at. Again, I'm not sure I agree with him about invading people at church and screaming and yelling, but getting the word out in Detroit might make a big difference. Billboards, flyers, robocalls, radio, all those things. Get the word out, especially in Detroit. That's one place where the media market is a lot of bang for the buck. You know, I mean, I would certainly encourage you to support the candidates and campaigns, but if you've got money to buy a billboard and put an ad on the radio, do it. Do it. And certainly our flyers are one way to start. And I wish we were doing more. If anyone wants to make a great video, hey, you know, if we can collect funds to put it on digital, put it on Facebook, put it on people's phones, you know, we'll get the message out any and every way that we can, and we will be announcing more on that really soon. So, all right, guys, I think that's all the time we have for tonight. As always, thanks again for all you guys do for liberty. I hope you guys are enjoying the good weather. Great time to go out, knock on doors. I hope you are doing lots of those. If you haven't done any yet, call a friend, schedule a time, go out and do it. It's tough to do the first time. It's late now, but it's never too late to make some difference. And elections are often close. So even now, every day through election day, if you are at all available to knock on doors and get the word out, get the word out. So, all right, guys, until next time, thanks for all you do for liberty.